Hi, Deborah.
Jeffrey,
Deborah,
how are
good morning.
you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for joining me today to talk about your new book. I read part of it. It's just
I
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I love seeing it back there behind you.
Oh, of course. Well, tell us about your new book and its collection of essays of teachers who made an impact on people's lives.
I loved putting this book together. As a journalist, I work on a lot of projects, and sometimes they're grueling and difficult, and sometimes they're just really gratifying. And this was one of those experiences that was really gratifying. I just thought, during the pandemic, when we were talking so much about teachers and the work that they were doing, and of course, parents were appreciating them anew because they were having to help their kids at home, and we started to hear about the lack of satisfaction in the jobs for teachers. They were leaving the profession at record numbers. Kids were starting to say they didn't want to go into the profession. Teachers were feeling disregarded, disrespected. And when I began to reflect back on my own experience with some of my teachers and just how wonderful some of those experiences were, and then I would talk to other people who talked about their experiences, it seemed to me that this was a perfect time to take a look at teachers. And really, in a way, I consider this a love letter to teachers, a reminder of what they mean to us, that they really matter, and that they have had a profound impact on so many lives, whether they knew it or not. So I saw this book as a way to take a look at the problem that we're facing in our country, but also to lift teachers up in a way that they probably can use right now.
And your book is a who's who of contributors that were they eager to tell their story too?
I was shocked by how quickly almost everybody I reached out to, and not even almost everybody said yes. When I happened to just think about Brooke Shields, because I had interviewed her and she was so lovely, and I've gotten to know Brooke over the years, I just texted her, would you do this? Would you share a story? Oh, absolutely. I would love to talk about my college professor. She was quick to jump on it. When I talked to Robin Roberts in the studio about it, oh, sure, I'd love to do this. Sergio Hudson, the emerging fashion designer, I just happened to mention to him. He said, oh my gosh. So suddenly I realized that people loved reminiscing about their teachers. And of course, I couldn't resist reaching out to Oprah. And Oprah just went over, the moon about Mrs. Duncan. And so I thought, this is really something. This is going to be exciting. And every story was really a pleasure for me to work on. I mean, whether it was weekends or nights or early mornings, because I had to find people when they were available, it was just a pleasure. It was a pleasure collecting these stories.
And everyone has a story. It made me think of my experiences. My college professor, Ray Rich, who's still my friend after 25 years, encouraged me to go into journalism. And eventually, I met Peter Jennings when I was on the ABC affiliate
Oh,
here when I was interning. Yeah, so he had a tremendous influence on my life. But if it wasn't for him pushing me to go to school, pushing me to get those degrees, and put me on this path, so he's just one of many teachers. I wouldn't call myself a teacher's pet, but I always made friends with my teachers. So growing up.
well, a lot of people have said that, and people have said to me that they've kept in touch with their teachers. Some of them, of course, do so due to social media now. It's a lot easier. But some have said that I vow to reach back and find my teacher now after this. So I've heard a number of stories, not only about teachers, but about people now wanting to reconnect and recognizing that they still have a little bit of a connection there with their teachers. So it's been really, really an exciting moment that has come from this book.
And we, like you were saying, education's in the headlines right now, especially here in my hometown of Las Vegas. Education, people going on strike, people getting a better wage. Teachers have always been getting the raw end for many, many years. Stories of them using their own money for supplies, and like you said, a lot of people are not going into the profession. What can readers do to help make a difference? What can they do?
Well, what I'm hoping people will do is first and foremost just recognize the teaching profession and recognize that teachers have been overlooked for a while. So I think more than anything else, I've said this when I've been talking about the book, many times when we meet somebody who's serving in the military, we will say, thank you for your service. I wanted to sort of start this campaign to thank teachers for the work that they do. If you happen to run into somebody or you have a friend or a relative who's a teacher, just to turn around and let them know, I really appreciate the work you do. So that's one thing. I think a second thing is we just have to really pay attention to what's happening in our in our school districts, in our states, and find ways. You know, a lot of people don't like to think of themselves as political, but a lot of teachers feel like they have become pawns in a political system where, you know, laws now are making it very difficult for them to do their jobs. One of the biggest complaints teachers have is the lack of autonomy. And I think a lot of us can point to moments with teachers in the past where they stepped outside the box a little bit in the ways they instructed us and the ways they did things. Teachers are very afraid right now. And I think that we need to get involved and engaged in ways that we make it clear in our communities that teachers matter, that we value them. And of course, you know, their salaries. I mean, that's something that everybody talked about in the book. The teachers are so vastly underpaid compared to so many other professions. And that doesn't really, that's not the reason they go into the profession, but I think we all need to be aware. So I think if we're engaged and we're aware and we try to at least acknowledge that and maybe get conversations going in our communities, we can make some changes for teachers.
Well, Deborah, lessons learned and cherished. It's a love letter to teachers. Congratulations. And I appreciate your time this morning. And let's talk again soon. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Appreciate it.